This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000houses.com podcast. I'm here with Max Keller, and we're going to talk to you about the fine art of writing a book, making yourself the trusted expert in the topic, and getting business and leads from places that you never dreamt of. You know, books are very amazing things, and the credibility that you can get from writing your own book and being a published author is tremendous. I can speak firsthand on this. I can tell you, my book series, My Life in 1,000 Houses, and my first book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, took me places that I never, ever imagined I would be. And I met people I never imagined I would meet. And some were famous, most weren't, but they were all uniquely perfect for my network and just exploded what I was doing. And I learned a lot from writing a book. I also tried to teach a lot to people who were not as far along as I was on the topic. But Max, how you doing today?
Real good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. So you're sitting, where are you physically sitting right now?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Good. A Texican. So you are going to talk to us about writing a book, and you have a giveaway a little way down the road. We'll give you a link to that, but it's on a checklist on how to write a book, or a checklist on writing a book. I'll let you explain it later, but tell us a little bit about how you got into the real estate business, and then how that kind of morphed into the niche of how to write a great book.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I was here in Fort Worth, Texas, teaching math and doing, well at it. I just wanted to, make more money, and I was looking for a side, kind of job in the summertime. And my friend started getting into real estate, and he told me that, he started buying rental properties. My original goal when I got into real estate was to, buy like maybe one or two rentals a year, just keep working as a teacher because I really liked it. I taught algebra at an inner city school, and it was a great job. I loved it. But I wanted to just have a little bit more. And so I started getting into real estate and really liked it. I started to kind of take over. I did deal number one, and then deal number two, seller finance, hey. And I just kept going from there, met some great mentors, and just decided to go, full time. And so, fast forward to 2017, I came on kind of two things. I kind of had a sticking point and then a new discovery. And that's really where the book came in. It was 2017, I had been, flipping for close to 3 years at that point. And I was doing good, but, I realized that I was just kind of my business was only as good as the next, deal that I found. And, I needed a lot of leads to keep up the pace that I was at. And, if I didn't have, enough leads, obviously that was a big problem. I wouldn't have deals. I noticed that my return on my marketing was going down, which was not good. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And so what I was doing was kind of everything. I was using, for my marketing, I was using, the normal websites. I was using bandit signs, pretty much every list that I could get my, hands onto, cold calling, yell letters, and, tax delinquents. I was working pretty much every list, every neighborhood. I was really spread out, and I was getting results here in the DFW area, but I was noticing that my results were unpredictable, and I needed, predictability. And I felt like I was really wasting a lot of time. When I got started in real estate, I felt like I had it really dialed in and I was using my time wisely. But then when the returns started going down, it just felt kind of like I was just chasing deals. So fortunately, it didn't take me long to figure out like what the problem was, which is, I was basically chasing the exact same motivated sellers that all the other investors and wholesalers were chasing. I was sending them pretty much the same message, and I was like, another investor in the stack, essentially. And so I would obviously get picked sometimes, which, felt great. And I got my marketing money back and another, 5 or 6x on the marketing spend. So that was good. But what I was noticing in Dallas was, some folks who are newer to the business or landlords were starting to pay, they're willing to pay a lot more loan to value for these properties than I was willing to do. At first my barrier was, like my ceiling was 70% loan to value, and then it was 75, then it was 78, and just kept creeping up. And I was like, okay, kind of, I was a math teacher. So I was like, okay, I know this is a numbers game. I know I need to play the game in order to win, but I don't want to overpay for deals. I don't want to go out of business. And, it started to feel like a grind. I didn't regret like going into real estate full time, but it definitely wasn't all that I thought it was. And so,
it's a job, isn't it? Like, it's not as easy as they make it look like on HGTV and A&E, where they just go out and, in 30 minutes, they've gone from distraught house to a $50,000 check, which, by the way, half the time isn't, 99% of the time, that check isn't even true. Ask me how I know. I mean, A&E followed me around for Flip That House, 10 years ago. And when I saw the insides of that, you had to fabricate a lot of stuff, the least of which was the profit. You know what I mean? The profit on houses. And
that's what I wanted more of. So, Mitch, what I did is I made a list of the 3 criteria that like I wanted in an ideal deal, like to make it a win for me, And so my 3 criteria is I wanted a high profit deal. I wanted to make good money on my deals. I wanted deals where the seller that I was working with, had minimal resistance to my offer. They weren't fighting me. And I wanted to, I wanted to have fun too. I wanted to work with the seller, feel like I was really adding value. And so I made a list of, probably at that point I was at deal, 60 or 70. And I made a list of all of my deals. And I was like, okay, which one of these deals fits all 3 of those criteria? Profit, it was easy to work with the seller and it was fun. And it was kind of good and bad news. The bad news is that most of my deals didn't meet all 3 criteria. That's why I was so frustrated. But the good news is that I did identify a pattern in the ones that did meet all 3. And it was, they were all senior homeowners. So they were motivated sellers, but they were all seniors. And so then I was like, okay, this is the deal that I want to get here in DFW. This is the group of folks that meet that criteria. Where did I get these seniors from? And so I went back and looked at like what list they were on. And what I found that was really interesting to me was that they weren't the typical motivated seller profile. Most of the folks that I had bought their homes from, they weren't, on the tax delinquent list. There weren't burnout landlords. The house wasn't vacant. They weren't in foreclosure. I mean, most of them didn't even have a mortgage. And then another thing I noticed, Mitch, was these senior homeowners, not only was it the highest profit deals and they had very little resistance to my offer and I liked helping them, but also the houses were in really good shape. They were sort of like little time capsules. Like structurally, they were fine. They didn't have like 20 people living in them and, beating the house up. It was just like a little old lady living there with like 1981 Sears carpet. And so it was a cosmetic rehab. They were smaller houses in the blue collar neighborhoods. And I was selling those to, my landlord, cash buyers, and I was doing really well on them. And so I was like, okay, this is who I want to get more of. I feel like it's a totally an untapped market. They're not on these lists. What lists are they on? So I went and looked back at, where I got a hold of these folks. And what I noticed was actually most of them came by accident. So some of them found my website, some of them found my, bandit sign, but most of them, it was like one lady got my postcard by accident. Another one, I was trying to buy this house in Haltom City that was vacant. And it was actually, I went next door to talk to the neighbor, and that's how I met her. So it was a lot of kind of serendipitous things like that. And I was like, okay, I can't run a business like that. So I need to figure out how to find more of these folks. And then I needed to like solve one more mystery. And if I solved this mystery, I felt like I could really unlock this group of motivated sellers that a lot of people aren't talking about very much. And so I called one of the sellers that sold me their house, who I know for a fact had an offer that was about 10 grand more than I was offering. And I was like, I need to figure out why these folks took my deal, because at the time I didn't really want to ask because I was afraid it would blow up the deal. So I called up, it wasn't actually the lady because she was at an assisted living house. It was the son. I said, hey, I'm Max, you remember me? And he's like, yeah, I remember you. I go, hey, I think you told me you had a deal from someone else that was like 10 grand higher. I was just wondering, like, why did you decide to pick me? And he goes, yeah, like, great question. You were really, genuine. And when you came to, help us, you seemed like you really cared about us. You didn't just want to do the deal. And the other guy that we were talking to, they were just like, when are you going to move out? When are you going to hurry up and sign the contract? And so they said, to us, we trusted you, and that trust and you genuinely caring about us. And I helped them find another place to live. So I was kind of adding a little bit more value to the deal. They were like, that was more important to us than 10 grand. And I was like, okay. So I was like,
it's
okay,
not cliche, is it? It's not cliche. If you go there with a servant's heart and you're trying to do the best you can for these people, people pick up on that. It's a karma, an aura, something you radiate. Now, the jury's out. Do hard closers miss more than they get, or does it balance out in the end? But one thing for sure is you have to be the person you are. And if you're not a cutthroat or hard closer kind of guy, then you've got to go the other way and learn how to be the people person and close your fair share of the deals that way. I've often wondered if I've lost deals because I'm not a hard closer. I mean, where would the numbers be? Would I be way up if I was a hard closer instead of a nice guy? Or am I way up because I'm a nice guy and I'm not a hard closer? I don't know, and I don't care because I'm not a hard closer at heart. So why would I want to try to be something I'm not? Whether the numbers are higher on one end or the other, it doesn't matter, because it's way too stressful to try to be some other kind of closer than the closer that you are. And I prefer, like you said, to be an advocate for people. Go in there and say, actually one of our marketing tactics is to say, let us help you keep your home. Right. And we will go with all our might and try to help figure out if there's a way with the set of circumstances that whoever called has, if we can get them to keep their home. We know that 9 out of 10 of them, there's no way in hell a magician couldn't help them keep their home. Right. But we're going there to try to find if they're one out of 10. And we're going to figure it out if they are. And if they are, we're going to just show them how to do it. And then that 1 out of 10, half of that time, they say, yeah, but I don't want to go through all those hoops. Just buy my house.
Exactly. And that's, and we really have the same style. And I always fought that too, because I noticed that people in, some of my masterminds, it seemed like it was a lot cooler or more popular or more successful to be that hard closer. But being the genuine you, is just always going to work better. And for me, I think I related to seniors, really well, because I have a very close relationship with my grandma. She helped take care of me when I was growing up. And then from pretty much, I guess, age 15 to when I was 30 or 31, when she finally passed away, I took care of her. So I was the person who was, helping her pay bills and took her to church. That's where I met my wife. And so she's like, my grandma was my best friend. And so I felt like when I was going to meet with these motivated seniors that I was meeting, basically like with my grandma. I bought all my homes from motivated seniors after my grandma passed away. But, I felt like I was, meeting with her, and a lot of them didn't have a grandson, who went to business school that could be their advocate for them. And so, my strategy is closing on a senior's house, is not ever something I was going to do to someone. It was going to be something, I would do for someone. That's just like our mantra. And I would never, pressure or frighten them, because, I wouldn't want somebody doing that to my grandma. And so what I was noticing, and this is really kind of what happened, how the book happened, because I didn't expect this in a million years. Like, I'm dyslexic. I actually didn't find that out till I was an adult. And so I only read like 7 books my whole life, because it was really hard to read. And then when I got involved in real estate and I started meeting, people like you and other folks online, and then in my masterminds, I was noticing folks read a lot of books. And so I got diagnosed with dyslexia. I
didn't read a lot of books either, because first of all, if you have it, you have to say it right. It's Dexia. You have to say it backwards, okay? So Dexia,
I got a fellow one in the audience. That's good.
yeah. Well, I don't know that. I mean, but I didn't like to read. Reading wasn't my forte. I wasn't good at it. Right now, ever since I published a book, I know there's at least 6 English teachers rolling over in their graves.
Like, oh, mine too.
Mitch Stephen did what?
They can't, Mitch. I can't. You can't even. I won't spell the ending, so I'll tell you how it happened first. But so just anything is possible, and there's a lot of leverage. And what I was noticing is really the premise of me having great success buying these seniors' homes, and it really changing my business was I was educating first. But I was noticing that when I was learning more options for these folks, like you said, helping them stay in their home, the options in senior housing, connecting them to resources, it was putting them at ease, and I was also closing more deals. And so just by learning more and adding more value to the deal, I was separating myself from 95% of the competition. Now, but there was a downside, and this is what I had to fix. The downside was I was in these folks' living rooms sometimes for 2 to 4 hours. They've been in their home for 30, 40 years, so they don't know all the ways to sell their home. They don't really understand maybe how to keep up the maintenance and systems in their home. If their mobility is in trouble, they don't know all the options in senior housing. And when they find out about them, they're overwhelmed, and it's a price tag they are very unfamiliar with. And so what happened was, this was the big game changer, was I was buying a home. It was in Richland Hills, Texas. And it was in the evening. The daughter came over there for work for the contract signing. And I was there with the mom and the daughter. And the daughter said, you've helped our family like so much. I mean, we don't know like where we would have been without you. Like you helped us figure all of this out. And for a year, they've been trying to figure this out. They just couldn't figure it out. And so they go, you know a lot about this. Have you ever thought about writing a book about this? Or you should write a book about this. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then we did the signing and everything, and I got the contract. And then when I went to the car, I was like, that's actually kind of a good idea. Like I've in this last year, I've sort of gone on a quest to figure out all this knowledge to help my, the folks that I've identified as my best motivated seller by far. It's not even close. I was like, I could go from a book would help me go from the person who is like, has knowledge on senior housing to the senior housing expert. And so what I did was, and we'll connect your folks at the end to some resources that we created to help people do this. But what I did was I made a list of, all the questions that I was getting asked in these living rooms for 2 to 4 hours, what the problems were. I wrote what the solutions were, pros and cons to each strategy. And that was the first book, Home to Home, the Step-by-Step Senior Housing Guide. And I printed out about 100 copies. I started giving it away. And it became a couple things for me. It became obviously my new, ultimate business card. But the other things was, and we'll talk about this more later when we go into like the actual, like why this is such a superpower. I know you've experienced it too, was I was getting, instant credibility, instant trust when I was giving my motivated sellers, my prospects, my book. And, being identified as the senior housing expert positioned me really differently when I was going on the appointments. So before I go to the appointments, I look like everybody else in the stack of mail. Now what we do still in our business, our home buying business, is when somebody gives us a call, the first thing we do is send a courier copy of our book by courier to their house and say, hey, I'm going to come over in a couple days to help you with your problem. I want you to read chapter 3 before we come over. It's all the ways to sell your house, pros and cons of each. Just like you said, trying to help people stay in their home. Chapter 4 is all about how to stay in their home. So I say, can you read chapter 3 before we come over? And they're like, whoa. This guy wrote a book. He's sending me an autographed copy. Like, what's going on here? And they're like, yeah, I can read it. So what happens is they read the book. We send it over. We go over there in a couple days. And kind of really 3 things happen. One is they stop calling other people, because now they have this person that looks very different than everybody else, because most of the competition doesn't have a book, and they're not really positioned as an expert. And so the people who are getting those deals instead of them. 2 is the people that they already called or were considering, they don't anymore, because they already have the person who wrote the book on this subject. And most important, 3 is that when I go into the appointment, they don't just read chapter 3, they read the whole thing because they're really interested.
How long is this book? How long is this book?
It's pretty short, by pages. It's about 130, but it's got pretty big spacing. So it takes about 4 hours to go through the whole thing. And what we notice is when we show up to the folks' houses, there's all these tabs in it, and they've gone through it. And so now, instead of 2 to 4 hours in the living room, kind of selling them on their options and selling them on me.
You just answer the specific questions they had the tabs on, right? They're not clear.
Yeah, and we just kind of go through at the beginning, So like, I'll go into their home. They already know me. They feel comfortable with me. Seniors are worried about security. They're not sure who to trust, and they trust me at that point. They've gotten to read my story. They saw the picture of me and my grandma on her 90th birthday. So they feel like I'm the person that was here to help them, and so it just really relieves the pressure and the stress. I'm getting a lot more exclusive deals. And so that's some of the benefits. And there's some more we'll talk about, later in our conversation, but it's been a lot more, it's been a huge game changer for our home buying business by far, but it's also been a lot of fun.
So I see in the background, Home to Home. Can you pick up a copy of that book? I want to see it. And there's different pictures on the covers.
I got one here on my, so the way that our system works is, we have a company that will connect you with all the contact info at the end. But what we do is so first of all, I just wrote this book for myself. I just used it for me. This was my new business card. This was my referral tool. I started to get speaking opportunities. If we have time, I'll tell you about what that was like, and speaking at local community centers and churches and getting deals from that. It's like, I didn't know any of this was going to happen. So like I was saying, I didn't read a lot. I started reading more. Then I started writing books. Then I go to masterminds, and my friends that were like, hey, Max, we see what you're doing and we like it. Is there a way that we can get involved in what you're doing here? And so, my home buying business is, on my shirt here, that's what I was doing. I wasn't planning on ever doing anything publishing related or having anything else out there. It just sort of evolved. God has a plan for everybody, and it just happened that way. So what these other covers are is how that happened. Is because what we do now is we have 2 different ways that we help people with our publishing company. Okay, so because there's really kind of 2 kinds of real estate investors that reach out to us. I call them the DIY and the ROI. So the DIY real estate investor, they like to roll up their sleeves and, get their hands dirty and work on the rehabs themselves sometimes. And, if
they like to work in the business.
They like to work in the business. And, if it gives, and it takes a little longer to get your return on investment from doing that. There's obviously a little more trial and error, but if folks enjoy that process and, it's satisfying for them, there's totally nothing wrong with that. So we help that group of folks, and I'll connect your audience at the end to some resources on how we do that. The other type of investor that comes to us is, I call them the ROI real estate investors. So for them, it's like, time is money, and they leverage a team. Like you said, working on the business, not in the business. They have other people get the rehabs done. Other people do the closing stuff, so they can just focus on getting more deals and more dollars. So for the DIY real estate investor, we wrote the real estate investing book writing checklist. And what it is, it's a book that pretty much just breaks down the process. So if you're watching this, you're a DIY real estate investor, and you're like, okay, I want to write a book to my ideal niche, my ideal motivated sellers, then you can follow the links at the end of the show, and we can connect you to a copy of that book for free. Mitch, just for your listeners. For the ROI real estate investors, we have licensed content that we allow people to plug into. So that's what this is. So like, this is my original book right here, Home to Home. This is what I give out in my home buying business, and I give it to folks. And so, but for some folks, they don't want to spend hundreds of hours writing their own book. So this is Mike and Marissa. He's a real estate investor in Chicago. We have some licensed content that we allow him to plug into. And instead of him investing hundreds of hours, writing his own book, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to go faster, speed. He's already doing business and marketing, and he's already identified if he attaches this to what he's already doing, it's going to make it better. And so we have a network of trusted experts all over the nation that we plug them into our deal flow book, which is this niche book. We have another like smaller licensed content for people who are just getting started. And then my business partner, Brant Phillips in Houston, wrote an amazing educational teaching book on private lending. You know, right now, folks are very interested in getting more money for their deals. And so we have some licensed content that people can plug into that teaches an ideal potential private money lender how this, you know, business works and educates them. So that's sort of how the other faces came on there, is they write a part of the book, not the whole thing, because it's a reference guide. You know, it doesn't change that much across the nation. And it allows them to go out and, you know, be that advocate. Like you were saying earlier, you know, Mitch, that word you use is huge. You know, a lot of folks are intimidated. They think, oh, well, you know, I don't have enough deals to be an expert, or, you know, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not like Robert Kiyosaki, the picture I got with him when I got an award last year at a real estate conference for this system, which was totally unexpected. I mean, I remember standing in line to get his book like 15 years ago when I was trying to get into real estate. And then 15 years later, we get an award for the book at this real estate conference. He was there, presented the award to me, and he asked me for a copy of my book. So like, I never would have imagined any of these things ever happening. It's just been
Isn't that great when your heroes become your friends?
It's amazing. Yeah, I feel the same way about you. I'm trying not to, I don't even know what the word is, you know, fandom, or, you know, I mean, I know you're a regular person too, you know, depends on who you ask. But yeah, I remember watching your videos when I got started in real estate, and you help a lot of people. And that's what I wanted to say is educate, advocate. You know, if you can look your motivated seller in the eye and say, I wanted this to be a win-win. I want you to win in the deal too. That's really what an expert is. It's not about how many deals you are. It's not about, putting other people down, or you being better than someone else. It's about teaching and advocating and putting yourself out there, making yourself available to people who need your help. And so that's what we do.
I've never been in competition with anybody. I've seen guys that did a lot more than me, and I was happy for them. Mostly I want to know, congratulations, man. That's quite a year you had. Mm-hmm. How did you do that? Do you mind talking to me, or do you want me to write you a check to talk to me about it? I don't care, but I got to know how you did that.
Right.
One way or the other, I'm going to, either way, because, so I've only competed with myself. My goal had always been, how do I improve my life and my family's life every year, year after year? And for a while there, the improvement was make more money, make more money, make more money. But then after a while, it's like money is not the source of my when you read like the books, like I listened to The Millionaire Next Door, and you find out if you make $55,000 a year in the United States of America, you're in the top 10% of the world. $55,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of the whole world. Okay, so if you're making 250, 400,000, whatever, you're in the 1% of the world or up, and you're not happy, it's not because of money. And that was one of the biggest revelations I got from the book. Was like, I talked to my wife one day. I said, honey, this book clearly, if these statistics are right, which I believe they are, if we're not happy, it has nothing to do with how much money we have. It has nothing to do with that. And so then it started to become about time and quality of life. Got enough money now. Now it's like, how do I work on my business instead of in my business so much, so that I can use the money that I have to experience a different caliber of living. You know what I mean? A higher caliber of living and being more present with the people and in the situations I value more than flipping houses.
Right.
Now, early on, wild horses couldn't keep me from flipping houses. I don't know why, but, it was because I was money-driven and I saw the money. I saw the money was at the end of this trek,
Right.
And I could see it and I could smell it and I knew I could do it. And there was a lot of money at the end of this thing. And it was more than I ever even imagined. And then when I got there, it was more than it really was more than I imagined.
Sure.
But then it becomes about quality. And then after a while, even when you achieve, now you've achieved quality, and it's always been about balance, though. Finding a balance in my life has been very difficult for me. How about you?
Yes, it's a strength and weakness. That's what allowed, it was so funny. I'm in the teacher's lounge. I literally just like love my job. Like every day, every year they say, do you want to teach the really high achieving kids that are going to, Princeton, or do you want to teach the kids that are 2 years behind that are struggling? And I knew that I always wanted to teach the struggling kids. And like, I loved working with them, and I loved helping these kids. And I felt like I was the only person in the teacher's lounge who wasn't complaining about their job. And then I was the only person who ended up leaving. And so my ability to be out of balance and just be hyper focused on something and take, risk and just go for it is just be 100% all in has been what's really helped me, I think, have a lot of success in real estate. But the downside is the balance. But I've gone through kind of a similar progression, and I've changed the way that I buy deals. I used to try to focus on competing against other people. I wanted to win and beat everybody. And then I started finding that literally every time I go to a new group or a new mastermind, there was always somebody who had doing more deals. Then I started finding out that doing a lot of deals, making a lot of money, actually didn't make you happy, because I got to really know these people in my masterminds and find out they're not happy. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's not a guarantee deal. And then, I noticed that, there's basically, I read this book, I think it was, I can't remember, it's a Jordan Peterson book. It's a really thick book. And he said, don't compete with other people, just compete with yourself from yesterday.
That's what I like to do.
And when I started doing that, everything changed. And then I stopped trying to go to the groups and saying I'm doing 50 deals while I'm doing 60 deals. And it's like, for me, I found the niche that's perfect for me. It's been an amazing niche. My profitability is 2 to 3 times what a skinny deal is. So I don't have to do as many of the deals. And I only buy from our home buyer business in just pretty much mid-cities of like Northeast Tarrant County. So just Fort Worth, Northeast Fort Worth area. And if I'm doing 2 to 3 deals a month that are really fun, that I'm like looking forward to, and then I have my publishing stuff, like that's really all I need to be happy. I'm not moving. I had all these houses that I was never happy. The day we moved into this house that we're in, which is probably a top 1%, I don't know, world or even US house. It's very big blessing. It's a lot different than our teacher house, but it's still very affordable house. And it's a 50s, pier and beam. I love houses. It's a cool big 1-story pier and beam house. And so I remember the day we moved in, I was still messed up in the head, with the mindset that I wasn't really, I think, grateful and appreciative for what I had received so far. And I was like, I told the movers, I go, oh yeah, you like this house? Like, your house is amazing. I'm like, wait till you see the next house. My wife's like, man, we just moved in. Now I don't think like that. Now I'm thinking, for me personally, it's like exactly what you said. I'm on that quest now to get more of my time. And then I want to
there has to be a higher reason now. For
100%.
me, a higher reason. I teach. I don't teach because I need the money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching because a higher reason. I want to help other people fire their job. Dale Ramsey does the primal scream when people get debt free. Right. We ring the bell over at my office when people fire their boss, because when they fire their boss, that means that they've replaced the income, and they're in more control now. We're never really in control, but we can have degrees of control. They're a lot more in control, and they have 2,600 hours a year to focus on who they need to be and how to get better at the person that they want to be, which is the ultimate, the first step in a lot of steps, because you never really finish, right? You never really get where you're going if you're like people like you and me, because I may not have as much dyslexia as you, but what I have is a tremendous amount of, I'm ADD out the, I'm crazy. ADD,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did notice that a little bit. And I have that too. So I'm with you 100%. I think we're 2 peas in a pod when it comes to that. It's really challenging. Isn't it pros and cons? like the pros is it allows you to explore and be curious and inquisitive and go out and look for new things. But the hard part is,
You'll overload your ass pretty quick.
yeah,
Because we see opportunity in everything.
right.
And it can be done. Every one of these things that I want to do, it can be done, and they can all be big, But the problem is, it takes just about everything you have. I haven't coined much, but I coined this. I coined this one phrase. The hardest thing an entrepreneur will ever do is have one great idea and finish big. Big. Because we keep deluding ourselves with this offshoot and that offshoot, and in a way, you talk about those people like, I'm drawing a blank. Those people that have spent 50,000 hours on that one topic. They're the world's best at that topic. Bodybuilders, for example, a guy named Coleman, huge, gigantic bodybuilder. I watched a documentary on this guy.
I met him.
You met him. Yeah. This guy lives and breathes from the minute he wakes up, what he's eating, what he's drinking. He doesn't go out. He doesn't party. He doesn't drink. For years, for decades, this guy has only done this one thing. And you've got to admire where he took that thing. I mean, I'm not so sure how healthy all this is in the end, but that's beside the point. The man had a dream. He went to the pinnacle of that dream, became the best in the world, hands down, more than a couple of years. Right. But I look at his life and go, that life's not full enough for me. That life didn't experience enough things for me. I would go batshit crazy if that's all I did for my whole life. It's not condescending to him, because apparently, for him, it's the right thing. For you and me, or some guys out there that are a little more ADD than that, I mean, we are not going to be satisfied with one thing for 25 years. We have to actually, I'm not happy unless there's at least 4 balls in the air at a time on any given minute. I'll push that to 8 balls in the air, but then I'll start to drop balls, and it'll mess, my flow starts messing up. So I got to say, hey, you got to get rid of 3 or 4 of these balls again. What's more important? And I keep coming back to the same 4 balls that I can keep in the air that just keep rolling around, and then that's when I know that's where I belong. And I guess I'm preaching to the choir here with you, but let's give people the link to get over to the what do you call it? It's the list on how to write your own book. It's 1000houses.com/ your book. That's what we're going to have, / your book. And this is about how to write your own book, how to become the expert in the topic from people. It's a thick business card. It can take you places and introduce you to people and get you business that you cannot imagine. The amount of credibility people give you when they see that you're for sure published author and they hold that physical book in their hand. It doesn't work the same with digital book. It's the physical book that you put in their hand that has your name at the bottom. The amount of credibility that you give is that they give you is almost scary. I've had people send me $100,000 in the mail, like the trust level's so high. I send it back to them and go, look, one time I said, does your wife know that you did this? She says, no, and I'm going to tell her today. And I said, well, after you tell her, call me back. And he called me back and goes, she's very upset. I said, let me send this back, because you're not supposed to send it to me. You're supposed to send it to a title company. You're supposed to get a first name. It's got to go in order.
Right.
And your wife's right for being scared, because 99 out of 9 whatever times, you might have messed up. You just happened to get lucky with me. I sent it back. I said, this is how it works, and this is how you'll do it. And then I called him back the next day, because I overnighted it. And I said, did you get the check? He said, yeah. I said, is your wife calmed down now? She said, yeah. I says, okay, so she's not worried anymore. She says she's not worried anymore. She says, now we can actually send it back to you if you want. She won't be freaked out, because just the act of you sending it back said she has no more worries. I said, well, no, let's just still do it the right way, But
yeah.
So I want to ask you about this licensing. You've got my attention here. So how much does it cost? So let's talk cost, but I want to preface this. This is, September the 10th or 11th or 12th, 2020, and Max has the right to change his prices anytime you want, up or down or sideways or left and right. But right now, as this conversation's going on, mid-September, it's September the 16th, I think, 2020, I want to license all three of these books. I want to license the one about senior living. I want to license the little, not the starting out one, but say the private money book. Talk to me about what that costs or what that's like.
Yeah, so it really depends on what niche folks want to target or go after. But our licensed content starts at around $1,000 and then goes up from there.
Okay, and is there a subscription or is it per copies, or is it one-time fee and you produce as much as you want?
Yeah, great question. So what we do with our members is we have a community. What we found is that business owners, which are real estate investors that come to us, they want to plug into a community, not just get a book. They want to know how to use it. People have bought a lot of things, and then but it's not just the act of buying or creating something. It's then how do you really put it into action? How do you really deploy it? So we kind of do two things in our business. One of them, when we're talking about licensed content, is we plug people into our licensed content. It takes about an hour or 2 hours of their time investment, and then we go and do the work behind the scenes to create their copy of their book. And then we send them a copy, and it's they get a digital copy that they can share online, socially, things like that. It's like a flip book. And then they also get their physical copies. The way we have our program structured is that we're about education and advocating. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to give out as many of these books as possible. So we don't charge anything for the books. It's just the cost price. So we give our members a link.
You truly charge a license price, and then they can go have as many duplicated as they want to pay for?
Yeah, and then we have a small monthly membership that folks who choose to stay in our program do. It's
for
very
continuing
small.
Education.
Yeah, and what it allows them to do is, look, some folks we have people who have been multimillionaires for a long time. They've always wanted to have a book. They don't want to write their own. They're sending out mail. They're doing all these things. They understand if they put their book on it, it goes up. We have one lady who owns a bunch of RIA clubs on the Northeast. She's in our program. She's been doing this a long time. She was sending out probate mail. She's getting 1% response rate in her state. That was good enough to get a good enough return to keep doing it. When she took the same probate letter and at the bottom put a picture of her with her new book that she co-authored, the licensed content, and said, hey, if you're not ready to sell your home, but you just want a copy of our book, just reach out to us. Her response rate went from 1% to 3%. The math is there. So it's like for people who are already doing deals, it's like, and it's the right niche that they want to plug into, and they don't want to do it themselves at the time. It's usually a no-brainer. And then, like I said, we have a weekly call where all the people in our community, we have at the time of this recording, about 60 people that license some of our curriculum across the country. So we all come together on this weekly call, and it's very specific, and we talk about how we're using the book in our marketing, and we all share ideas from each other. And because folks are all over the country, they're feel free to share their best kept secrets. And then if somebody has, like when our member had that probate letter that was working really well, she put it in the member portal. Then our other members started using it. So we do that kind of thing. So that's what our program is. We don't publish other people's books. That's why we wrote the checklist. If you want to publish your own unique book, that checklist that we wrote for real estate investors is really the first of its kind. So you can use that if you want to plug into one of our niches to save time, and then you can do that. And that's basically, that's what I do when I'm not, buying houses.
So if I I'm asking a personal question, but maybe some people find it interesting. I see your cover. But I have my own kind of brand going already because I have two other books. I'm kind of like, I tried to copy Kiyosaki by using the same colors on the books all the time. The books look similar, even though they have different titles. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was his theme all the way through. I chose My Life in 1,000 Houses all the way through. He chose purple and yellow, and I chose red and black and yellow. Can I do your books but still keep my theme on the outside?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, so like one of our members, let's see, I'm kind of pointing right here,
Yeah.
Tim in Florida. He's got our private lending, one of our private lending license content, but we have some custom cover options too. So that's
Okay.
a different, so we
I
have some.
think you're gonna. I think you're gonna hear from me. And also, I have some interns, or not interns, but I have some young acquisition managers, and we're doing things at our office to find houses, and we're doing, but I like to pick one of them every now and then and say, I'm gonna, or I am, or we are gonna pay for this thing, and you're gonna get this book, and you're gonna get on this weekly call, and you're gonna start to find your own avenue in
Right.
conjunction with the things that we want you to do. Like develop your own lane, develop your own expertise, develop your own following, in addition to what we do, so that, marketing for houses is a never ending, it's always morphing. If you
100%.
Yeah, if you read my book, My Life in a Thousand Houses, 200 plus ways to find bargain properties. I mean, there's 200 ways, and people go, well,
Right.
what are the top 10? It says it depends on where you are. It depends on your market. It depends on what year it is. I mean, 15 years ago, bandit signs were killer, and it's all you ever needed. You never need anything else.
Right.
Then they went out of style. Then they came back to a certain degree. They were never as strong as they were when the house flipping industry was relatively obscure.
Right.
Everyone started putting out signs. They become horribly ineffective because, there was a bunch of, quite frankly, newbies that were out there muddying up the water so bad and making up such horrible mistakes and being so unprofessional that those signs kind of got tagged as, don't call those signs. Those people that have that up are full of crap.
Right.
And it did turn into that. And then after a while, it came back. And it's really kind of back right now in my city, and then there's also different levels of marketing depending on how much budget you can allot for. If you're working on a shoestring, that book starts out with marketing ideas that you can do when you're dead broke, because everyone I know started out dead broke. That 99.9% of them.
Sure.
Even if they had some money, it wasn't a lot. They had a little bit. And they also had a broke mentality. Even if they had money, they were so afraid to lose it that they wouldn't touch it. So we all started out broke. And so that's how that book starts out. And then it morphs into, like, if you have $4,000 a month that you can put in a budget, or $10,000, you can just extrapolate out, and everything can be done for you. That's a different mindset and a different thing, right?
And yeah, what was frustrating me was where I like what I'm doing now with the book. You made some great points earlier about, following up with people and, leads and
forging your own path, though. You're forging. This book is unique to you. You started this, you found this little niche where people would read your book.
Right.
It makes you feel good as a salesperson or an acquisition person to say, I'm doing this one thing that hardly anybody in the planet is doing. And
Right.
in my region, no one's doing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It feels really good. One of the things I was noticing was, and that's why we created our program with the calls. So some people like, you who have offices, they don't have time to come to the calls, but it's a group call. So their team goes to it. So they're acquisitions people, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things I was noticing was when I was going to people's homes that had gotten my book, my book was not, one of the things that they talk about in direct mail, one of the things that's so frustrating is you're sending people stuff that they really don't want, and you have to hit the exact timing bubble because it's not, if they don't see whatever you're sending them is really valuable, it's junk mail, they throw it away. And so the goal is like to be in the top drawer. And now then with the book, what's been cool, from an acquisition standpoint is, folks are not, when they receive a book from the author, they're not throwing it away. They're not putting it in the drawer. They're putting it on their, coffee table or their bookshelf with the other autographed books from the author. And so one of the things that's nice about that is when you talked about your marketing spend is I've actually found that our marketing spend has gone down astronomically because our message is so focused, it's getting in the hands of people who really need it and resonate with it because we focus on a niche. And then the other thing is because of just the form that it's in. It's in a form that is just more respected and not thrown away. And it's in a form that can be passed around a lot easier to people and shared. You know, the first deal that we got with our book wasn't actually from somebody we sent it to. We actually sent it to the neighbor. And then when I called the neighbor, you know, I used to have a problem where people would say, yeah, follow up with me in 30 days from direct mail. And then when I would call them, they wouldn't answer. And it's because, you know, something had changed and they didn't want to talk anymore, right? Or there was in a holding pattern. So now what's cool about the book, I actually kind of learned a little bit of this book idea from financial services folks. You know, they're under a lot of licensing and a lot of scrutiny with being, you know, in securities business. And so what they would do for their advertising is they would write a book and talk about the book and talk about the education. And that was a way to kind of get around that. And so, so with this, it's been the same way when I'm working with the motivated sellers. Instead of talking to them about just about their house or their deal, we're talking about the book. We're talking about the education. And when we follow up with folks, we send them our book and we say, okay, well, how long is it? If I send you a copy of the book, it's normally $12.99. But if I send you a copy for free, would you read it? And they're like, oh, absolutely. I'm like, well, how long would it take for you to read it? And they say, oh, I'd be done with it in a week or two. I said, okay, here's what we'll do. I'll schedule a time to call you, follow up with you in 2 weeks. You'll have read the book by then, right? And they're like, oh yeah. And I said, we can follow up on what you read in the book, not when you're going to hurry up and sell me your house.
Yeah.
It's changed the whole, it's nice to have stuff that's more evergreen, that people are seeing as more valuable. What's cool is when you give people things that they see as more valuable, they see you as more valuable. And if we go full circle on this call, it goes back to those 3 things that I wanted. They're less price sensitive because you're adding more value to the deal. So because you're adding more value, you're getting paid for the value you're adding. So you're getting more profitable deals. More profitable deals means you need less of them to make the same amount of money. There's less resistance to the offers that you're making because there's less people around because you've shown to be the trusted.
You've separated yourself from the pack.
Yeah, and what part of helping and educating and advocating people and having a smoother transaction in the process and making more money while you're doing it wouldn't be fun. So that's the trifecta. It's the profit, it's the smooth, and it's having fun. And so that's what we're doing. And it's really cool having these other people. You know, Mike, he's making some videos and he's doing some digital marketing where he's doing educational videos straight out of the book. He's just teaching like we're doing here, teaching something out of the book, and then he's sending ads all over Facebook, teaching people stuff in Chicago where he's at. And, you know, James is doing this with his stuff, and all these folks are doing this. And sometimes I'm watching their videos and I'm seeing them being the local expert, really teaching this curriculum and making a difference. And their old way of marketing was just, you know, an ad, sell me your house, a benefit statement. And now they're really providing a whole nother level of value, and they're reaching hundreds of thousands of people. And it honestly makes me kind of emotional sometimes. It feels like
there's your higher reason. There you are having an effect that's having a big ripple effect. And not just, you know, not just the students, but it's also having a ripple effect with the seniors that have to make these decisions, which 100%. Is a very important time in life where they need help and attention. And, you know, we have the baby boomers coming of age now, 10,000 or I forget the number, 10,000 or 100, 10,000 a day. Yeah, 10,000 a day. The demographic for the baby boomers is like a basketball passing through a garden hose. I mean, it's going to change everything for a while, and then it's going to change back again. Just about the time you get used to it, it's going to drop off again. You know, so
yeah, the numbers for the next 20 years were projected to add over 20 million people to the 65 and up population, and for the first time in recorded history, and it's supposed to happen in about 12 years from now, the number of 65 and over population will exceed 18 and under for the first time ever. And so for the next 20 years, you know, I'm 39, I turned 40 this year. And I want to make I love helping these people. I love what we're doing, and I have a lot of energy, and I need to do something. So for the next 20 years, I'm going to be buying houses here in Northeast Tarrant County, and I'm going to be helping our students do what they want to do with whatever niches they plug into. And it's it's just like a straight climb.
So I just thought about that. So you're the niche that your advertising niche that you're developing is in line with what the populations are going to be
Right.
like.
Yeah.
Assisted living is becoming really big. Anything senior care is becoming big.
Right.
If you sell hearing aids, you're about to be into a boom time. There's just things that that the world's going to need because that population of over 65 is going to be so big. And here you are, right with a marketing niche for the ages, for the times, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I shared a stage with Robert Kiyosaki last year and Harry Dent, and we had a dinner afterwards, and we were all talking, and he wrote the book Demographic Cliff, and a really smart guy, and so we were all at dinner after the conference, and he said, if you want to understand economics in a nutshell, maybe we'll, I know we're getting short on time, so maybe we'll close out with this. He said, and I'll let you have the final word, right? And he goes, people do predictable things as they age. And so if you follow the patterns of, the groups of folks as they age, there's just certain businesses and services that are going to be in more demand. And so when we looked at the growth curve and we were trying to figure out where is the best spot to be, and there were all these notes from us, like just anecdotally from my experience and being, my grandma and doing, the list of 60 deals. But what about looking through the world population or the US population? And the number of people, the fastest growing demographic right now on Facebook is seniors, which you would not expect. The fastest growing population is, we're going to add, the baby boomers and the seniors, and they're just starting to hit that 65. And so when they go to downsell their big home, or they start having mobility issues, what are they going to do with their house? What are they going to need? So me, for Northeast Tarrant County, and then my community are positioning ourselves as the local experts that are there to help those folks when they need that. And I'm just trying to stay healthy and, do this for a long time.
Seems like you need to get some affiliate relationships with 1 or 2 or 3 assisted living complexes around there too, because you're going to be selling a lot of it. It's a natural.
It's very, very popular.
I think I would go get some arrangements with them. It won't cost the people any more. They'll just have to pay you a referral fee or something.
That's funny actually. So we started doing that. So one of our members, Ray, started getting into our book system because he was already senior real estate specialist and he wanted to get more niche, more of those people in the niche. And then he saw the opportunity to start a referral agency, and he actually closed on his first 2 deals. And so he's referring people to senior housing, and he's getting first month's rent. And it's where he is in Maryland. It's $5-6 grand, which is a wholesale fee, and a small wholesale fee, and DFW. So there's huge industries behind that particular niche, and maybe in the future. We can talk again and, talk about some of the other niches that we're involved in, because we're actually involved in other ones too.
All right, we're running short on time here, man. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Max Keller, and I want you to check out his, the chance to license your own books, and if you're a DIY guy, then you can go write your own book, but if you're a ROI guy and you want to just spend a couple of hours and then tap the resources that Max has already done, then go to 1000houses.com/your book. And you teach some stuff. You have subscriptions on the weekly call. All that information is over there. As we try to fill this section with content. That's why you guys come here. You don't come here to be sold a bunch of stuff. But when you find something you're interested in, just get over to the show notes, and in this case, 1000houses.com/your book, and you'll see everything there is that Max has to offer. And if you're interested, follow up. If you're not, no big deal. Low key, the job around here for me, as far as I'm concerned, is to help everyone out there figure out where their financial freedom is. If it's with Max, great. If it's with Mitch, way to go. If it's with someone else that we've been interviewing, I don't care. Just find your financial freedom wherever your passion is. And then if I have a small part in doing that, then I'm a happy guy. Because I think, and like I said before, we ring the bell around here at my office when people fire their boss and become in control of their own destiny and their own finances and get to become the people that they were meant to be. So this is Mitch Stephen with the 1000houses.com podcast. Thank you by again stopping by to get you some Max Keller, and we're out of here.